to this next level development webinar. You may have seen some of our promotional materials and be curious, or you may have been invited by a friend or family member. Either way, the purpose of today is to introduce you to the next level development concept, ethos, and process. Once we've completed the presentation, you will then join the NLD team for a question and answer session that should have you ready, willing, and able to help us turn this vision into reality. So let's get started.
All right, I believe that's handing over to me. So again, welcome everybody. We're going to jump straight in because time is limited, but thank you very much for joining us for this webinar. As we begin, so I know the first question will be, who and what is Next Level Developments? Well, we're a collective of committed professionals and volunteers from the UK, the USA, and Africa. It's been quite an interesting journey for us, and we've traveled to different spaces, and we've been getting a lot of calls internationally. And as we grow, it won't just be the UK. We are bringing people on board from as far as Detroit and Maryland, and also we have a good set of volunteers and people who work with us in Africa. We're really ordinary people who pool our skills and our resources and talents to establish a new reality for the benefit of the motherland and the diaspora as a whole. And we're those who recognize the importance of our reconnection to Africa, and we're willing to play an active role in facilitating it. It's one thing to understand our connection, but it's another thing to actually play that active role and get involved. And those who are with us at present and those of you who will come on, we need those who really want to play an active role. So our vision, what is it we're actually trying to do here? Well, the first thing, we'd like to build an intentional community in Zambia, consisting of businesses, farmland, residential areas, something that's going to provide a secure and sustainable basis for the members of the diaspora to repatriate to the African continent. So as we go back as members of the diaspora to a land we've left many, many, many moons ago, we want to make sure we have what we need to secure and to sustain ourselves. That's the most important thing. I have had calls from those who've gone in as individuals, and even though they've been successful enough to set themselves up, it has been the problem has really been settling down by yourself and having everything you need to take care of yourself. We want to inspire a positive change across the continent and support the development of local communities. Many of us are tired of what we've seen in terms of what's been put across of Africa, and those of us who have traveled, and I know many of you may have done, we know that the vision that's being put out, what we're being reported to about Africa is not that, but we want to inspire positive change across the continent and support the development of local communities, which eventually will be our communities. And we also want to establish a blueprint which can be duplicated across the continent. This is what we are planning to build, and what we've begun building in Zambia is our blueprint. It's something that we'd like to be able to help other people do across the continent. So even if Zambia has not been your main port of call or somewhere that you've known, when I first heard about Zambia and was first invited, I had to look it up on the map because I didn't actually know where Zambia was. So it may not be in your mind, but this is a blueprint, and we found the best place we could find to build this blueprint that we hope to duplicate across the continent. Okay, so I did say the main part of that vision was an intentional community. So what is an intentional community? It's a self-identified community committed to living together in an economically, culturally, and spiritually sustainable way. That's a really important thing for us to get our head around, because even being in England for as long as we've been, economically, culturally, and spiritually, we're still to come together and really amass our full potential. So what we're looking to do is to find a safe haven, if you will, to actually start practicing living together in an economically, culturally, and spiritually sustainable way. Really, it's just a more inclusive and progressive way to live. All right, so if you decide you want to leave, we have the repatriation to-do list. What would you have to do? As many of you may have already had the desire to leave, what does this consist of? What is necessary for you as you decide, like our family on the right here, to walk out of Babylon? Well, first you need to travel find out where you want to be, the best places to be. You'd need to make your local contacts. You'd need to get help with professionals, maybe estate agents, lawyers, surveyors, etc. Then the next point would be planning your move, buying land, maybe building a home or renting a home, arranging shipping for your personal items, import of vehicles, paying duties and registration fees, making new friends. These are things sometimes we don't think about. Just having the kind of social contacts. If you've only got one friend in the new place you go, or two, what happens if you fall out with one and you've not really got a network for that? But daily activities, local information, social life, help, support, companionship, schooling and childcare if that's what's necessary, entertainment, health and emergency contacts. And as you live there and you go on, the next part to have is you've got to develop your ongoing finance, your income. We've got to find meaningful work to do and to stay active, because many of us don't want to go and just sit on the veranda watching the world go by. We want to be able to stay active, and being active is a key to having a long and a healthy life. Then you have to think about your connections to family. Will they be able to visit regularly? Can you visit them regularly? How will your life work in the space over 10, 15 and 20 years? Have we considered retirement planning? Well, these are all the things that we actually think working together will allow us to do, like in a fraction of the time at half the cost. So from our vantage point, we can come together, we can actually look at all those things that were just there, that whole list you've just gone through, and think, well, imagine if you had 50 or 100 people doing that together. It's a breeze. But as individuals, and some of us have done it, I actually have done it in Ghana and didn't really get to the end of the list before thinking, okay, I'll just stay in England. It is a lot to do by yourself, but as a group, it's really easy. And we at Next Level Developments have been, in the last 12 months, what we've been able to accomplish, and you'll see that later on in this presentation. What we've been able to accomplish in a year has just been amazing in comparison to what I was able to do in 5 or 6, and others have taken 10 or 12 to do. So why become a member or a founder member of Next Level Developments? Again, as a collective, we can overcome the obstacles and move into Africa at twice the speed and at half the cost. It could even be faster than twice the speed and cheaper than half the cost, but I thought I'd be conservative. We can build our own village, one that can raise our children, protect and provide for our women, and inspire our men. Again, it's a more inclusive and progressive way to live. If we're designing our own way of life, then from nursery to high school and beyond, we can choose what's necessary. It becomes easier to do when you've provided businesses and industry for your children to work into, because now you know what you're training them for. And this is one of the things that you'll see later, but as I said, it's just a real core part of what we're doing, as opposed to just complaining about what we don't have or what's not here. We can actually take a piece of our own land and we can build whatever it is we need. So that's out there. The biggest thing is we have to decide, are we ready to leave? A phrase I've heard, I think it's Juliet Lopez in Gambia using a lot, Blacksit, the desire to actually exit Britain or exit wherever it is we are and do something else. But I guess the question on many people's minds is really, why should we leave the UK? If you really don't know and you really want to stay, I'm not forcing anyone that we should all go, we all have to go or you're crazy. But if you look at the conditions that we're under, if you look at what we're going through on a daily basis in the UK and what we have done since the Windrush landing, we really should ask the question, how are we really doing in the UK? And think about things like our families and households. Think about education and crime. What are the statistics like? Think about mental health and employment. What has been our interaction in the UK? And are we really doing so well that, you know, there's no, it's so much better to stay here than go anywhere else? Or have we got some of that Stockholm syndrome that won't let us leave and won't let us see anything outside of the UK? Those of us who have traveled and actually started to put down some roots outside the country can tell you, and I hope some of us, people who are in different countries, will come on and be able to answer this in the questions and answers. There's far better families, households, education, and employment available for us on the continent than is here. We just have to go out there and find it and make it. In short, and this is really important to me, just think about this. Our parents left, many of them, from the Caribbean and came over to England. So everything that they came to get, it's already been got. This is why we're going backwards, and they're sending people back who came on the Windrush. We're complaining, but what are you staying to get? It just doesn't make any sense. We're now on a steady decline, and we have no plans to develop our own community. And this is really the basis of next level developments, because we are going to have to take our community to the next level, and purchasing land and building our own homes and schools and businesses is just a far better cry or a far better statement to make for the future going forward and for our young people than just to say we're going to stay here and, as you can see, rub our heads or complain they should do better by us. We've been here long enough to do good enough for ourselves. So next, let's look at it. How do we start? Stage one for us is going to be something where we look at, I know many people, their first thought is, I need to buy a house. For us, it's not that. The first stage is really business and infrastructure. We need to be able to make sure we can supply our own food, clothing, and shelter. And what happens is when you rush to buy a house and put all of your finances into that, you have no regular income, and before long, we're making our way back to the UK or back to the States or wherever for finance. But you wouldn't do that if you built your infrastructure and your businesses out there to take care of your income before you've arrived, or even while you get set up. One of our friends in Gambia has been there 4 years, set up 2 very successful businesses, and they're still very happy renting until their businesses is at the level that now, okay, fine, we can take surplus and build a home. So these are some of the ways that we'd like to move. But what's the first thing we need to do? We need to build our financial base. Next, acquire land parcels and agricultural systems. Land parcels, I've done those together. Land parcels and agricultural systems is all food, and the best food comes from the ground. If we can secure our food and say, okay, look, we know how we're growing it. We know what's in there. We know what we've produced. We can find out now we've taken our mouth out of the European kitchen. Now we can start preparing food for ourselves the way we'd like it prepared. We need building equipment and specialist knowledge. We have that here. And bringing that together, we've already started to import some of our building equipment, and it's out there working for us now. But the knowledge that we bring and the knowledge that we get, when you merge those two, this is stage one of our building before we get into anything else. I know lots of people will have ideas about how best to go to Africa or what they want from Africa, and I don't take away from anyone's individual view, but what we're doing at Next Level Developments is we're setting the stage for making sure it gets done. It's not so much about opinions, it's more what does it take to make this thing happen. Next thing we need, and it's something we're constantly building on, we need vehicles to move goods, supplies, and people from one place to another. This is why I'm not a great fan of rushing to build one house and sitting on the veranda. We need to be able to move goods and supplies. We need to be able to travel and get the best of natural resources and make profit and take care of ourselves using those. We need the ability to service and maintain our vehicles and equipment. We also need professional catering systems for large-scale food production. Again, when you see these countries and they are fighting one with another, they're really looking at one of the main things people look for is food and power security. So we have to make sure that not only can we grow our own food, but we can prepare it, we can have it the way we like it, and some of our tastes may have changed for the time that we've been in the Caribbean and the UK, and maybe a little bit different. We need to be able to take charge of our own catering systems and our food preparation. Again, it's just some pictures I just want to show you in terms of, I want us to think bigger when we're thinking transport, when we're thinking equipment, when we're thinking about business. When you go by yourself, you're not in a space to think about purchasing a combine harvester. You're not in a space to think about purchasing a whole fleet of up-to-date machinery and transport to move your stuff around. You're not in a space by yourself, or for most of us we're not, that we can think about capital projects where we can build whole estates or whole villages in modern standards with our own purse. It just isn't the case. But if we go together, this stuff is easy to do. We can actually take sites that are maybe forestry or are undeveloped totally, move our equipment into those areas and get that done. Well, if you just have a look now at some of the equipment that you can get and some of the businesses that we can roll through. So if we just go to the next slide, and the next slide, right, we're looking at how we can take tractors, we can use mini diggers, we can prepare whatever we want. This level of actual preparation, it gives you a different view to what you can have. Essentially, a school is a building with rooms and teachers. Black teachers we have to put together a room, a building with enough rooms to teach our children is not a difficult ask, and there's many of us prepared to do that and put that together. Some of the industries we can be looking at for our land is things like fish farming, which is very big and supported heavily in Africa. It can be livestock, emeralds, also the supply or even the import of tools and machinery and materials that are necessary for building if we can't produce those materials directly where we are. Okay, so here's another big question for us. Why Zambia? Why would we even, it's not the one that we talk about traditionally, particularly in the UK. Zambia is not on everybody's lips. It's generally Ghana, Nigeria, and Gambia. We have a lot of Nigerian and Ghanaian friends, and many of us, Gambia was our first place. Either Gambia or Ghana would have been the first place we'd have gone to from the UK. Well, I was told about Zambia in May 2019, so it's been less than a year since we arrived there. And I went out, I literally just hopped on a plane, went straight there. I didn't know anybody when I landed apart from a contact I was given, Joyce, who met me there and has been helping me ever since. But the infrastructure was the first thing that we noticed. And I toured north, east, south, and west and went as far as I could in different directions. And these are like 12-hour drives, or 700 or 800 kilometers one way, 1,000 kilometers another way. So we took some time and we really studied what was around us. And the culture was just so laid back, and it was easy for me to get in and start working. So why we chose Zambia was the infrastructure, yes, but the culture and the way of the people made it so it wasn't a very difficult thing for us to go from landing there with no knowledge of anyone to start building and having businesses, or even discussing what we needed for land with people out there. It was very quick and they were very helpful. The location of Zambia, if you don't know, it's in central South Africa. It's just up or across the Zambezi River from Zimbabwe, which has wonderful fertile land, and Zambia shares that. But it's a great location. It's bordered by 8 other African countries, which makes trade a really good thing. And we met women who were aggregating or bringing lots of produce together from the villages and exporting into 200 and 300 tons worth of commodities or produce to some of these African nations. So they have a really good base for trade with their neighbors. Also, political stability has been another it's been a hidden gem for me, because although the independence was gained by Kenneth Kaunda and his colleagues in the 60s, they stayed in power building what was called the social experiment up until 1993. And then when leaving power, it was a very smooth transition into what I guess we'd call modern government. But even with that, the transition of power has been smooth, but because they stayed on that idea of Africa for the Africans for so long, it's actually kind of entrenched in their education and it's entrenched in their being. So it's not perfect by any means, but I saw more of that there. And it was something that we needed, because that understanding of the history of Africa is very key to our reintegration. You really want to be around people who know when they see us how important we are to them. Fertile land, I've already mentioned. It has large water courses under the ground. It's literally, it's a landlocked country, so there is no sea, but they have large masses of water that actually run under Zambia, which helps with the land and also means water-wise, you go down with a borehole, pretty much like most of Africa, and you can have your own water supply. The natural resources in Zambia, again, as many other countries in Africa, are excellent. There's gold, there's emeralds, there's manganese, there's copper, and again, all manner of things can grow in that climate. So we've got the ability to really take the natural resources and make something special for ourselves. And I've alluded to business partnerships already, but business partnerships and the opportunities were great, and we're going to be putting more and more of those out month by month in our newsletter. We will actually be packaging different businesses and opportunities that are available for those of us from the diaspora. So if we can just run through, I just wanted you to have a look at some of the pictures and just see what's available. It's very modern. There's malls and up-to-date transport links and stuff. It just means that although we are moving from the West back into Africa, I know many of us are not really at a space where we just want to go back into the bush and start. No, you don't have to do that unless that's what you want to do. You will literally be able to go to the mall and get your needs, to the supermarket. And that's a part of Africa I think has been left out for the rest of the world, because it's very, very, very well developed and developing. And much of what we think we've missed for being out there is there in droves. One of the nicest places we went to when we were there is a place called Samphia Beach. So that's Samphia Beach, you're looking at that there. So it almost felt like the Caribbean, and I took the research trip up there, or we took the research trip up there. And I think everybody got that feel because the weather is so gorgeous, the sand is so nice, it's a lake there. Zambia has a huge lake, although you can't see the land on the other side. It just has this huge lake, and it was so peaceful. And we're actually building, we have land just off from there, and we're going to be building in that vicinity. And I think for those, it's a fitting space for those of us who have come from the Caribbean and know this is where we look to go back to. It just has so much of what we need to be at peace and at home. So if we leave those pictures, we'll just run through them, but there's just so many. And Zambia really was a special location. And we can get to our progress so far. So let's see what we've been doing and what Next Level Developments has done since May 2019 in Zambia. So we've acquired some land sites. The first one I'll talk to you about is a place called Rafunza. Now, Rafunza, we have 617 acres. This is a farming block. A farming block is predominantly meant for agriculture, but you can also have residential and business buildings there because the people who work there will need to live there. So we have 617 acres now, and we're considering raising livestock, raising fish farming and cash crops in that area. So you can see where it is on the map. It's actually very close to Lusaka. It's probably about a 2-hour drive from Lusaka, and it will get less as the roads get better. Actually, right now, the roads aren't built, they're being built. So it's more like a 4-hour drive now, but once the roads are built, it'll be like a 2-hour drive from Lusaka. So actually, I'm going to quickly just see if I can show you a video of that land. So if we can just get that up, I'll just show you that, and then I'll move on to the next one. Oops, I think the sound's muted. Sorry, let me just go back and I'll do that again. My bad.
It's me at presentation land. And I'm just looking around. This is what it looks like to be in tons and tons and tons of acres and acres and acres of land. We've just driven around for like 5 hours trying to go through this plot. I know, that's the best way to show you. This is land we can be growing on.
So what that is, that's actually a video I sent back to the Next Level shareholders, basically when I was standing on it, just to show what it was we were acquiring. But being in a position where we can actually have our own land, grow our own food, and then ship that out to either ourselves in the areas that we live and also to the local markets is a really good way for us to go forward. At present, we're just getting started with our trading of produce, so we'll have more to report on that, but it's just stuff that we're growing and really able to develop. The next site we went to is a place called Mansa, which is just up to that lovely beach that I just showed you. So Mansa is in the north of the country, and it's a bit of a drive. It actually takes about 12 hours, I'd say, from Lusaka up to Mansa. So those who are working up there will probably be staying up there. But it's 1,000 hectare or 2,400 acre site in Mansa, and it's located in the north of the country. And what we have is a really large tract of manganese mining land. It's acquired with as a partnership with the local people, which is really good. Manganese is something that's used in production. So in the production of paint or stainless steel or steel, it's very well sought after, because in the production of most of the things you use, manganese is used. So yeah, it was a really good thing. We tested the surface, we took it down to the Ministry of Mining. I'll show you those documents later, but we got really great reports for the quality of manganese that was in the ground. And it is actually known that that's a very good mining area. There's other people, Turkish and Indians, moving in, but at the same time, we met with the chief, and the deal that we spoke of for partnership with him, he was really inspired and said nobody has come with these kind of fair terms to actually ask for mining land. So if we're able to make this successful, there is definitely more where that came from. And there's a picture of us next, actually sitting with the chief. So although it's 2,400 acres, that's the chief sitting on the chair there. And that is pretty much our next level development team that you see sitting around. And he was explaining to us just how the land situation works there and what happens in terms of people coming from outside. They may say, okay, we'd like to buy this piece of land to grow tomatoes. So he sells it, or he may give them a concession to grow tomatoes, and then they'd come in, mine manganese for 10 years, take out millions, and you don't see them again. And this is something we want to be able to help them develop their space, but also develop ourselves at the same time. You can see here, this is actually a letter that we received from the chief that we can take to we took it to the government in order to get our title deeds underway and to get our mining licenses that then allow you to mine on Zambian soil. So there's that, and that's our setup next to it. That's the company we set up in Zambia. So Next Level Developments is a company limited by shares in Zambia. The next slide is us actually, we went to see the mining land he gave us. So that's just a picture of us on one corner. As I said, it's 2,400 acres. And I don't think any of us in that picture have seen all 2,400 acres. It's a lot. So that's just us on one corner of the land, but it goes back behind us for 2,000 or 4,000 hectares, which is 2,400 acres. And you can see in the next slide what manganese actually looks like, and some of the rocks we took from the surface. So on the right side is manganese. You can see it's sort of, it's looks like a rock, but it looks like it's got metal on the inside. That's the manganese. And when that was tested, they actually told us at the Ministry of Mines, if you get 30% manganese at the surface, you've got a very viable mine. Well, we went and tested the samples we got at the ministry, and they came back. You can see our test results there. It's actually 61% and 66% for those two rocks, which I was desperate to bring back to England to use in my presentations. However, they got confiscated at the border because I didn't yet have my mining license. If I had my mining license, I'd have been fine. And on the other side, it's black quartz crystal. Black crystal is the one at the top, and quartz crystal is the one underneath. So all that was found literally just hanging about on the land. And this is why I always say that the opportunities out there, what we can do if we really learn the value of land, we can really make ourselves a very productive people. Now, the third acquired site that we have is actually just on the very outskirts of the city of Lusaka. It's about a 30-minute drive, and it's a place called Makeni. I don't know if you're in London I guess the best way to look at it is anywhere you can get to half an hour to 20 minutes from the center of London, that's where this place is. So we got this in partnership with a local family, and they've had it for maybe about 15 or 20 years, and it's just sat and hasn't done anything with, which a lot of the time is because people actually need to see how they're going to get the money to develop, to run tarmac into a piece of land 20 acres long, it's huge, and actually build the businesses and all the buildings that are necessary. So she didn't have that, but as a partnership, if we bring the development knowledge, know-how, and finance, we can develop the 20-acre site and take ownership of 15 acres, and she's happy to turn 20 acres of land into 5 acres of developed land. So that's the agreement that we struck with her, she signed on to, and that's what we're working at present. So again, that's very close to the center of Lusaka, and that's going to be our initial residential address. Okay, so let's think about next, what could we build? What could we actually get on the ground that we can use? I think many times what happens is we're thinking individually, but we haven't thought about what it is we could build that will give us peace and security and give us a space to build that kind of intentional community. What I have next is it's a prototype. It's something we sat down with our architect, who's one of our main members, Raymond Mohammed. He's on the call today. And that's really a prototype. It has, I think, about 70 houses in there. And at the center is a business center and a school, sort of like a sports hall. It's simple, it's really a hall. But what that lets us do there is it means that's our central hub, and everybody lives around, and we've sectioned off this piece for ourselves. It doesn't mean that we never see local Africans. We can have them in, maybe their children will come to our schools, maybe we'll hold stuff. But what we've built is a secure space for us to integrate into Africa. But in order to do that, we need to make sure that we're safe and secure and together. So we learn first and foremost how to integrate among ourselves. Because I think one of the greatest myths that we sometimes don't address is, even as a Black community in the UK, we're yet to get together among ourselves. So we want to get a space to do that as we then learn to integrate with the whole of Africa. There's some 3D renderings, just to give you a feel of what that can look like. We're not looking at big, illustrious homes. We're looking at sensible, spacious places that we can live, but we also want to have a communal feel where we actually learn how to live as a community. There's a few of those, just if we just run through those quickly. Then what I have here is the actual floor plan of what one of those places would look like. So again, this is a prototype, something we put together that helps us work out the costs, but it's a 3-bedroom house with an ensuite master and even a walk-in wardrobe in there. A generous 3-bedroom, 3-up, 2-down house in the UK will be about 90 to 100 square meters, and this is 122 square meters. So it's not pokey, but it's not necessarily the most lavish house you've seen in your lives. But as again, what we want to do is start, be comfortable, make sure everybody has a comfortable space to live as we build and we grow. One of the next things we managed to do is actually start up some businesses. I think I may have spoken about that a little while earlier. And we're just looking at the stuff that we've done so far. It was important to me to have the ability to fix our own stuff. And you saw us in stage 1 that that's really a major part of what we're looking for is not only can we bring stuff there, we can maintain and look after it. So what we started was next level recovery and repairs. And basically we sent down you can see it there, that's actually our recovery truck on its first day's work. That's the first car I picked up. But we sent down mechanics, tools, and a recovery truck. So it means as we bring our vehicles down, we're not fighting, looking for new, no, we actually have a mechanic, and we have mechanics who work for us and who take care of our stuff. So looking into the future, motor vehicles will form a major part of our all business and personal endeavors. So investing in the means to maintain them is just sound business. So we have our truck, our modern mechanics, and it's on the way. Business number 2 is next level tours and hire. Now, this was born from our own need for transport. The first research group that went out there, obviously we didn't know as many people as we do now, but what we were quoted for taking a minibus around for 2 weeks, it was just astronomical. But when we looked at the cost, it's probably about £3,000 or £4,000. And then we decided, actually Raymond decided, that we may as well buy a bus for that if we were going to do that. And that's exactly what we did. So we exported a bus from the UK, sent it down, made sure it took care of us when we were on our research trip, and it's been out there since, able to work and do other things to bring money in for us. So we want to be able to make sure everything we bring is adding to us and is paying its way and helping us to get settled and comfortable anywhere we go. And you can see some of the promotional material that we've actually made, and this is in circulation on the internet right now. So those flyers that you're looking at are actually from these are things that have gone out and people are able to call us and then make that happen. Oh, you're not saying that. Let me just see if we can get forward to the next slide. Sorry, my apologies. There you go. So these are the actual promotional materials for what we're doing out there. There's some more, but it's really good to be able to send that via Facebook. Everybody in Africa has a mobile phone with Android or Apple, and a lot of this is done digitally, but we also print it and distribute those. So that's part of the work that we've already started, and these companies are up and running as we speak. A third company is probably our biggest company and something that's going to really grow and do great things for us. And this is our main company that we're working on. It's Next Level Construction. So if I just read the text here, it's our main company, and we're already working on 2 large contracts with local businesses. Oh, sorry. Just get the text up. Can we get the text up? This is our main company, and we're already working on 2 large contracts with local businesses having imported much needed specialist construction equipment. We're providing management support and increasing productivity in exchange for a share of increased profits. We intend to expand this initiative to eventually build our own communities and commercial buildings. So it's one thing to go out there and then bemoan the state of subcontractors, but we're already a subcontractor out there and we've not been there 12 months. So we're working on road drainage in the city, and in one of the rural towns, we're actually building 180-meter boundary walls. So it's just to be into that. Once we're already in there, we're working, we know where we need to get materials from, we have basic equipment, we have basic staff. It makes the whole industry of building for ourselves much, much, much easier. And many people who have moved abroad, the hardest part was always going to be working with contractors. So moving on. This is some of the promotional material that we have for our construction and hire company. So we bought quite a lot of that stuff is actually our equipment, by the way. So we have generators, we have road diggers, we have whacker plates for making smooth concrete, we have compressors. So all this stuff is out there working for us and available, and the bigger we get and the better we get, the more we'll be able to do this. So I guess once that's what we've been doing. So now in terms of the future and what we need, it's really all about how we work together. So working together, first thing we need to think about our partnerships. Who is it we're working with? How are we working? So we need to make sure there's favorable terms to help us get started and build together. So you're always going to need people, but it's thinking through the terms that we strike with anyone that we work with, the terms we strike for ourselves to help us get started faster, and that allows us to build together. We need to make sure local businesses develop and grow. It's really important, and I know many of us have for an issue of some of the treatment people from the diaspora have received when they've either gone back, but maybe particularly in places like Jamaica and other Caribbean islands, where they go back and they're not necessarily received as well as they would hope to be received. But really, if you're not helping the locals to grow and develop, they can't necessarily, not they can't, but you'll find everybody won't welcome you back with open arms if you don't actually contribute. So we want to make sure that we're building around shared best interests. And it's part of our code of conduct to make sure we really do unto others as we'd have them do unto us, and don't do any kind of business with people we wouldn't be pleased if that's what they did with us. So shared business interests is just really, and doing unto others as you'd expect them to do unto you is a really big part. We want to build intentional communities. You really need the support of the local people around you to do this well. So again, we're looking for partnerships that are letting us do that. And even with the first site, it's a partnership with a local family that's allowed us to do that. And in order for us to get them on board, we've made sure that there's something in the contract that's in there for them. So it's not, again, it's shared best interest and a really strong partnership to let us get started. One of the main things we need to remember as well is what we're doing here is investments. It's not aid. Aid is it's a trick that's been played on Africa for far too long. We're investing in them, they're investing in us. This is what we want to keep going. And anything that looks, smells, or sounds like aid, you should really watch it, because 9 out of 10 times it's a trick. And what we want to do is we want to build long-term partnerships. We don't need to have people around us today and unable to work with them tomorrow, even though that will happen. We want to build strong partnerships with ourselves and our own community, yes, but the local community as well, so we see ourselves and we can secure ourselves in the spaces that we're moving to. Some of this stuff that we're actually looking for is actually a lot of what we don't have in the UK, and it's really important for us to get that. So moving on, what do we actually need? We need land, we need skilled personnel. We've got to have people who can actually do what it says on the tin. We don't need to be fighting with people who don't really know their spaces. We need people who can do what needs to be done, that we're successful. Failures happen, mistakes happen, but too many of those actually wear away at the spirit. So we need skilled personnel. And one of the most important things, and it's the stuff people go to war for, but everybody needs it, is land, because everything you need comes from the land. So we're going to try and build that and make sure we take as much as we need to provide for ourselves and make a difference to the communities that we join. We need access to local markets and government initiatives. We need support to repatriate and resettle. We need trustworthy friends, and we need social connections. That's pretty straightforward. And I know everybody here, if you were going to move to another country, regardless of where it was, you'd need all of that to really make sure you were safe and happy. All right, so what can we offer? The main things that we bring to the table is cash. We may be struggling in England to do what it is we have to do, but at the same time, because of the exchange rates and because of the way that the West has impoverished Africa, our pounds and our dollars and whatever those currencies are, euros or whatever, they're actually very strong and we can do a lot. £5,000 in the UK, it may, I don't know, pay for a family holiday that you'll remember, but equally that can buy a 30-ton lorry and have that, and we can send that out to put that to work to move crops from one place to another. Equally, that can actually be enough to turn a profit at a fish farm that maybe is struggling to get together what they need to make that into something that will give food and profits for 10, 20 or 30 years. So we can offer cash. We can offer access to foreign markets and equipment. We can offer best practice techniques and skilled consultation. Those of us who have that to offer from here, just because we come from the West doesn't mean we have best practice. We just are in a position to offer what we've got. The thing that I think people forget is Africa is one of the most studied. These people in Africa have been doing 1 and 2, 3 degrees in very serious subjects. They've been skilled in languages of different countries, and we can't go back and imagine that we just know best because we came from the UK. But then again, there are skills, techniques, practices that we've been exposed to that we can share. We can offer greater business returns by controlling as much of the production and supply chain as possible. So a lot of the places people lose is, you know, we take natural resources out of the ground cheaply, they're sent to the West and then sold back expensively. If we can get the sold back expensively part and produce as much as we need, then we can sell and export expensively, but we'll have what we need at our feet. And that's really an important thing to have. And the other thing is we come from so many different countries in the diaspora, and we're in so many different places. The representation we give to Africa internationally is going to be amazing. All right, so moving into the last section and becoming a member, which is really what we hope we're inspiring you, and this presentation is inspiring you to become. So when somebody decides they want to become a member, it's not necessarily that, okay, you pay an investment and then you come in. It's not necessarily like that. What we do is we want you to come and express your needs, but we're very concerned to make sure that we meet with you, you meet with us, and that we're a good fit. It's not just, it's not for it won't be for everyone, because we need to make sure the mindset is in harmony. We need to make sure our aims and objectives are in harmony. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not a property, a property development scheme that somebody can come and go, well, I'm going to make hundreds of thousands. We're building the community that many of us have hoped for and wished for, that we can then bequeath to our children. So we're careful about who we let on board. And all of you, as you're deciding to come on board, you'll want to weigh us, get to meet us and question us and see what it is we're doing. And we welcome that. So generally we'd have a team meeting and then go out to dinner with somebody. In today's climate, that's probably not as easy. It's actually not possible. So we'd maybe do something on Zoom, but we'd have a team meeting and we'd sit down. The purpose of this would be first to allow you to talk to team members, and secondly, ask any questions, but then to discuss your reasons for wanting to become a founder member. It's an intentional community, so you have to intend to be there, and those people have to intend to be together. The only way we do that is we actually have to understand people's motivations, understand people's histories, what they bring to the table, and what it is that they've been through and what they intend to do going forward. So that's a really important part. It's a relationship that we're starting, and we're very serious about making sure we get the right people on board. So moving on, the legal structure of the company, we're a UK limited company. So as you come and we get the investors pack together, you'll be signing our simple shareholders agreement. So as a UK company, normal rules would apply for our accounting and our reporting. We have a standard shareholders template, which is it's not dissimilar. It really just lays out how we use our shares each. The first thing that stands out that may have been a modification, or actually is a modification, is your shares cannot be sold unless it's back to the group or the group approves the sale. Sorry, can we move on with that presentation, please? Yeah, so standards, and again, standard shareholders template, shares cannot be sold unless back to the group or the group approves the sale. The reason for this is we want to make sure that as we build an intentional community, it stays as we intended and doesn't then end up with people selling off to the highest bidder, and now we don't have an intended community. We have a space that, I guess it's a free for all, and you don't have the bits that we needed to build that secure community. So we're very concerned that shares either go back to the group as a whole, they can be sold back to the group as a whole, or to somebody else that the group has actually approved. All shareholders have equal voting rights. We can change our rules, but only by majority agreement. Move on to the next slide. So our shareholder investment is £5,000 for 10,000 shares. That actually equates to about 50 pence a share right now. And what that means is you'd own a portion of the company. You'd own some of the land. Let's move that on. Let's move the presentation on. You'd own some of the land, businesses, equipment, and vehicle. You'd have a share in everything I've just shown you that we've already done and going forward in what we build. You'd also be allocated a space within our residential plot of land. The people who come on board as our initial founder members and shareholders, you need to be sophisticated investors. We don't want to take anyone's finance that doesn't understand. It is an investment. Yes, we can be very successful. We believe we will do. We believe we'll make great profits working together as a team, but also it's possible that we could lose money. So we need people who really understand, have invested in things before, and are sophisticated investors. As part of the sign-on scheme, you'll need to certify as a sophisticated investor. The initial contributions that you make will allow us to develop the business and the infrastructure to repatriate. So the contributions that we've made, those of us in the group now, that's what we're building on. That's what everything you've seen has been funded by. And as we build that, it's the business and infrastructure that will make this work for us long term, because we have to be able to have the resources we need coming in to sustain ourselves. And lastly, shareholders will pay the cost price for their property, meaning we're not selling it at profit. I'm not building homes at price A to sell at price Z. That's not what we're doing. The shareholders and those of us, we are all the developers together. So we will aim, as we build our businesses, we'll aim to subsidize the cost of building these properties with the company dividends from the companies we've set up as a community. As long as the companies are profitable, there'll be extra money for us to do that. If not, we'll only pay the cost price of building the homes that we then inhabit. So joining the team. One of the other things we need is to make sure that everybody has understood our NLD code of conduct. We're talking about coming together and building a community, but it's very important to make sure we learn to treat each other properly, because the reason there isn't that cohesive feeling in the Black community, a lot of the time it's the way we treat each other and the way we act towards each other. So part of Next Level Developments joining us, or part of getting on board with us, is signing and agreeing to our code of conduct, which talks about the ethical treatment of each other, the company, and those who we work with. Also, there'll be monthly meetings and regular updates and help with work. Everybody who joins helps with work as part of the group and as part of the team. So we don't necessarily have, people have whatever reasons or time and abilities that they have, but we really do require that everybody gets on board, puts a shoulder to the grindstone, because equally we'll go much faster if we all work together. So that's really what we want to do. A lot of the times people have ideas and things they want to make happen, but another part of our group is, if you have an idea, take responsibility for making them happen. You lead the charge with your ideas. So that's a really important just ethos, or just the culture of the group that we have, and it's people who understand these points that we're looking for to join our team. Next point, we were actually due to go away in May this year, May the 14th. We were going to be going away to do our next Zambian experience. Now, the trips that we take when we take people to Zambia, they're so important and really help to solidify people's understanding of the project. And what we do is we'll go around to all those places that I've talked to you about today. We'll see some of the businesses at work, and we'll be discussing what it is we're doing. We had probably 23 people registered so far, and that was before the coronavirus kicked off. So we're having to postpone this for a later date, but it's definitely something that if you're interested in, you really should get in touch. You can even put it in the comments part where you are, in terms of if you're interested in joining us on this trip. Then just write the word trip. If you'd like more information about what we've spoken about so far, I know we're getting into the questions and answers shortly, but if you listen into that, you're like, there's certain bits you want to talk about or discuss, then put more info into your chat bar on this Zoom call. So we'll be able to see that you needed more information, or you wanted to register with us to come on our trip. And if you feel like you've heard enough and you really want to join and you really want to get on board, then type the word join and then we'll know those of you who wanted to join, and we'll contact each of you accordingly. So, looking forward to the future. The main thing for us is, as I said to you before, Zambia is a blueprint. It's a prototype, and we want to use Zambia as a launching pad. We want to make sure there's a free and independent Africa, and we want to play our part in building. As Marcus Garvey said, it's really important. Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. All right, so you have, that's pretty much it from me. And I think where we are now, you'll know the website. I'm hoping many of you have already visited it in the run up to this, and you can contact us via the website. So if you check us on there, put in what you need in terms of your details, put in what you need, join, more info, or trip, just write that down, and I'll give you a little while to do that. Then we'll know who to contact about what. So thank you very much for listening. That's my presentation. And if I hand back to our host, then we'll get ready for the questions and answers. Where's our host?
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Hope you can hear me. Right, so now we will start the question and answers section of this presentation. So if any of you got any questions, would you like to look at your participants section of your screen, and you should be able to identify them, click on the raise hand. So we'd like you to use the raise hand facility, which should be on your screen. And if not, if you can't use the raise hand facility, you can put the message into the chat area of the screen, and then we will be able to respond to your message in turn. So at this moment in time, we'd like to invite you all to ask some questions. Now, at this moment in time, Justin will be mainly answering the questions, but other members of our teams will be answering these questions. I'd also like to add that we will be sending you a questionnaire, which will be popping up in your inboxes in about 5 or 10 minutes. Please also fill in that questionnaire after this presentation. So, do we have any questions from anybody? Please raise your hand, or you can put the question into the chat area. Justin, can you see the questions?
I cannot. Where would I see them?
Okay, not to worry. We'll read them out for you. Right. So let's see. Okay, what do we have? Right. Okay. We just had a question from Lola, and she stated that she misunderstood the time. Oh, sorry. Ignore that. No, she's talking about the time about joining.
No, this is my good friend, and she'll be joining us soon enough. She's already registered to come on the trip.
Okay, rightio. Okay, so we're getting some responses from people in terms of trip. Okay, right. We've got
Bevis, yeah. I think what needs to happen is we've got a couple of people who have raised their hands. Right. So then if you ask them, the ones that have raised their hands, to unmute themselves, then...
Yes, I was about to do that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So, thank you. So, Peter.
Greetings to you.
Greetings, brother.
It is, first and foremost, I want to say that your professionalism, your organization, your presentation, and your forward focus is 100% in synergy with what the ancestors have put in our hearts to move forward today. Absolutely 100% fantastic. 10 years ago, I began in the same spirit. Behind me, you see a picture of me standing on 53,000 acres of land that we currently farm in Kenya. We have businesses in Kwakwa, South Africa. We've been north, south, east, central, and west Africa, producing alternative energy workshops, teaching, giving, and producing exactly the kind of capacity that you spoke to. The fact is that if one determined right now today that they wanted to leave and repatriate to Africa, there's a specific problem that 100% of us would encounter. How do you exist forward? So what the Ledge Group did was we built out the capacity for us to be able to flourish absent a government or a monetary system. I say all these things to say exactly what it is that you've done or what it is that you've built is what it is that we begun doing and we continue to do. Right now, in the wake of this global pandemic, kings, governments, presidents, leaders, CEOs, companies, and organizations of every ilk in the world have changed and modified their forward focus. The Ledge Group had built for this. Did not have to modify anything. We completed building in Solwezi, so you had it on your map. We're in Solwezi in a place called Kulima, and we built a maternity ward there, and we are continuing to build our medical complex. At the end of the day, if you control your own food, clothing, shelter, water, healthcare, and security, then you don't need money. If you can repair your own machinery, you can produce your own tools. If you can do these things for yourself, then you can call yourself a free man. And so I have listened to this, and I've tried to figure out a way. What I'm certainly going to do is petition to become a member and donate to that. Now, again, as I said, I'm the CEO of the Ledge Group, so I won't be as active as I might be. But what I'd like to do is find a way where we can connect and partner. Again, the way that we've been able to do what we do is we don't go into Africa and act as if we have all of the solutions. We don't go in and open up a factory and try to move ours over to work in that factory. We go in and we partner with the people on the ground. So the best that we could ever do in anything is 50-50. So we partner with those people on the ground. We produce the finance necessary for them to do their projects. They provide the workers, they provide the man hours, and we build together. And we've done this country after country in every single place.
Brother, can I just hold you for 1 second? Because you're right, the synergy is overwhelming. So what we'll do, if you can just send me your details, because I'm aware that we've got other people on, and you're that proficient in what you're doing, I know you don't have a question for me.
I don't. And what I was looking for is a segue. So the segue is, I'm definitely going to petition to be a member. But further, I'd like to communicate offline or in some way that we might be able to get together. We are the power of attorney over about 11 mines with billions of dollars of copper resources available to us.
That's a given. That's a given. I knew that would happen about 13 seconds into what you were saying. So definitely we'll make a note, and I will contact you myself personally.
I love y'all, man. Full support.
Thank you very much, Peter. We do appreciate that. Okay, do we have any more questions? Because some of you had hands raised. We do have a question that's been put into the chat section. Are there any specific number of shares allocated? The reason why this person asked, because they usually, the company issues a specific number of shares, and then these may be divided amongst the investors. Hope this makes sense. So are there any? Yeah, okay. Please go ahead, Justin.
Oh.
Justin, I think you may have muted yourself, Justin.
So I only heard the bit, are there a specific number of shares?
Yes.
The answer to the question is yes.
So, okay. I think there may be
things like that. If somebody's really interested in that, hopefully they've already put the more information part together, and that stuff that we'll discuss with those who are serious about coming on board. Much of what we've done as a company is available, and if you're serious about getting on board, you can have, we'll get into all of those dynamics, but there are other questions to get to before that. So yes, definitely, let's put that person in the more info pile, and if they're serious about getting on board, I'll give them the company details and we can go through that. But it's not something we do generically, just out to the public all day long.
Okay, wonderful. We have another question from Mr. Senior. He says,
oh, wow. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. For the £5,000 investment, what will you receive in this case?
You'll receive everything that we've just discussed that we have and we're doing. You'd receive a share. You would then be a shareholder of all of that. What we've done so far and what we do going forward. So there are those of us who put £5,000 in at the early stages last year. That £5,000 is spent, but we're all shareholders in the company. So you're actually buying into the company, and that then makes you part owner with the rest of us with everything that we've got.
Okay. We also have Nabila Samuel. Can you speak, Nabila? Nabila?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Go ahead and ask your question.
I just had a question regarding the £5,000 initial installments.
Yep.
Is it possible, sorry, the 5,000 initial installment, is it possible to pay in installments?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And we've had people who've done that. We prefer not, but then again, we have to be realistic with our situation. So yes, but the installments, and that's something, again, if you're really interested, we'll have these discussions and we'll work together as part of, if you want to join, that's your first thing. So it's not like you have to go away, find £5,000 and don't talk to us unless you got £5,000. The reason we're saying £5,000 is we need to build this infrastructure. So you heard the gentleman who was on the phone, who was on the call earlier, speaking about stuff they've done in Kenya. We can't do it without the finance. So the founder members of those who literally have to put their money where their mouth is. Some of us have done it over time, but we can't leave it. It's not an open-ended, £30
no, of course,
here and £20 there, because we actually need the money to keep building what we're building. So we're gonna, if I could just hold you, we are working on a that will allow people who may not have the 5,000 to still be involved in the projects and find ways for them to get there. That'll be launched. Bevis is probably best because he's leading on that one, but that'll be launched in due course. But at the present, yes, we're open to discussion about it. It's case by case, and the team and the shareholders will look at what you're offering and see how they can work with it. We really do want our people on board, but we've got to be sensible to make sure that the resources are there to do what we've already told people on the ground we're going to do.
And another question.
Yes.
Hello. Do you have to bring a professional skill to the table to be part?
No. Some people with professional skills won't make it. Some people with professional skills will make it. The spirit, your intention, your desire. We're going to end up on some pieces of agricultural land needing to learn brand new skills that we were not using in the UK. Many of us have never farmed before. Farming is the engine of that community. So we're going to have to learn new things. Many of us have never mined before. I never mined before. We're going to have to learn new skills. So we're not judging Black people as they come by how successful you've been in the house of your enemies. That's not what we're interested in. We're interested in the spirit you come, what you understand you bring to the table, and then we go from there.
You're going to learn skills that you never knew you had. You're going to get introduced to yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. And it's going to be fun. Like, in terms of what we've got to go and do, living life is a lot simpler than we've been led to believe. And once you get away from these people and get a space to yourself, and you work as a group, as a happy Black family, you'll be amazed at what we can achieve. And I'm sure some of you already know this. I'm preaching to the choir, I'm sure.
It gives you chills when you know. When you've tasted freedom, nothing else tastes as sweet.
Excellent.
Anyone else?
We have a question here from Charlene Taylor, and she said, can you split the investment between you and your partner, for example? So I think she's probably talking about a husband or something like that.
Then yes is the answer. But again, it's always a case-by-case basis in terms of how that will work. So yes, you can. I don't want us, you do need to have that investment, and we'll talk to you about the investments. I'm really more concerned about questions you have about the way we organize. The money's good and we need it, but it's not the first thing, and we can work with you if you don't have all of the money and whatever. But at the same time, we need the money. Yeah, so I don't want too many questions about the £5,000, because yes, that's what the initial part is. Work, come up with ideas of what you can do. I've had people call me and say, okay, I couldn't do the £5,000, but I'm going to get to Zambia and help while I get it together. I mean, there's always ways we can work. So it's more about how we work together and build this vision is even more important than the 5,000, but you have to come up with something.
Okay, Charlene, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlene.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, we have another question from Miriam Campbell. She's asking, what about healthcare?
Good question, always comes up. I was speaking earlier, and an analogy I used was a school is really a building with teachers in it, and healthcare is really a building with equipment and doctors and nurses in it. Healthcare in Zambia is actually very good. So before we get to that, healthcare in Zambia is good, but depending on where we are, we will be building medical stations in the places that we are. We have nurses, we have people of varied skills who are coming with us anyway. So we will have our own nurses. Hopefully, if we don't have a doctor who just joins us, then we'll pay for a doctor, we'll pay his wages, he'll live among us and take care of us. We can build our own healthcare system as simply as we can build our own education system. However, Zambia's got great healthcare, and I fell sick when I was out there last and had to go in for tests and stuff. And by the time I had like a really high blood pressure at the time, and by the time they finished with me, giving me the different tests and working out what medicine I needed and all of that, I probably didn't spend £25. Yeah, so I know we worry about healthcare, but we can build the kind of healthcare we want. And the healthcare that's on the ground, remember when you go to UK hospitals, there's many of your own African people in there as doctors, surgeons, and nurses. We'll have some of those come with us.
Okay. Don't forget, you can also raise your hand if you can, if you need to ask a question, but we are getting them on the chats. So there's a question also from Lola. Perhaps you missed this. She's just asking, why was Zambia chosen?
Just say, why was Zambia chosen?
Yes, why was Zambia chosen?
Okay, I originally thought the Caribbean would be the best place, and traveled around the Caribbean looking for the stuff that we needed. The Caribbean lacks natural resources, the land was expensive, and growing and exporting was expensive in those spaces. So we couldn't get started. The scale of economy wasn't going to work. I went to Gambia, Ghana, I've been to Nigeria, and really tried to look for places out there. And I know that that exists, and some of my Nigerian friends were like, no, man, you should have chose here. But it was when I went to Zambia, and it wasn't my choice. Somebody told me about it, and I visited. When I got there, it was just so easy to get this off the ground and started. When I got there, I was one person with Raymond, who's my architect, who was in England, with giving me support, and Nina, who is in Washington. Those two were like behind me while I flew out. And it was just so easy to get started. The people that we met, the moves that we were able to make, I wasn't able to do that in Ghana and Nigeria the same way. So this is why we chose there. And again, it's a starting point, it's not an ending point.
Okay. Wonderful. Right, so we have another question here from, oh, I forgot the person's name. Yes, sorry, from Daniela Jackman. She says, how many shareholders does NLD have, and what proportion of the land or investment the state actually stays in the collective? So
actually stays in the collective, did she say?
Well,
yeah, all of it.
Yeah, so
it does. So what proportion stays in the collective? All of it. What was the other question? How many shareholders do we have?
Yeah.
Again, that's going to be stuff that we do once somebody decides they want to join. There was a third part to that question, wasn't there?
No, that was primarily the two sections. It was just how many shareholders do we have?
Yeah, but just for a ballpark figure, it's about 20 of us working together. There's about 20 of us working together now. The finer ins and outs of the shareholders and the shareholdings will talk to anyone who's really coming on board with us. We'll have that conversation. But it's about 20 of us doing it. And yes, all of it stays within our group. Okay. Unless we've made deals. So let's say, for instance, the mining land that we've got, we've actually made a deal with the people there that we would take control of the land, but we'd take 33% profits, we'd give them 33% profits. And because there's extra investment needed for major mining equipment, and we'd share that 33% with the people we needed to get the extra investment out of. So in that regard, we still have control of that land, but we have an agreement with the local community that we'll take a portion and give them the same portion.
Okay, she's asked again, are you apportioned a piece of land on investment, or does it remain as a collective part?
Oh, it remains as a collective. We're only apportioning it, so make sure that we've built room for you to stay in. So the land itself still remains, I understand her question a bit more now. The land itself remains with the collective, but we're making sure that everybody who's come on as shareholders, we're able to house you and us, myself and Bevis and others included, that each of us have a space where we can live with our family. So we're not doing it like you get an acre, you get an acre, he gets half an acre. That's not what we're doing. The land belongs to all of us, but we're making sure that we've apportioned a plot of land or a space that we can build your home on. Every shareholder that's a part of us.
Okay.
Yes?
Daniela, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well,
Great.
Thank you very much. I don't see, see if there's any other questions that I've missed. Shareholders.
I was asking you to kind of expand on the fact that, and from a U.S. standpoint, I'm in Boston. 3 weeks ago, the kwacha to U.S. dollar exchange rate was 5-1, which is very good. But today, it is 21-1, which again, I wanted to hear your thoughts in relation to what that means for us today.
It was 5-1, which was really good. It's 21-1. That means you're going to get a lot more kwachas for your dollars, right?
Yep. So what that means, what I did, again, we built a maternity ward. So I bought 10 bags of concrete, and it was $300, and that was about 3 weeks ago. That same $300 now bought me 80 bags of concrete.
Right. So if you think about it, what it means is now's a great time to start sending our money back. It means more if we send it back now and buy tangible assets with it. So if you bought concrete to build your space, we're actually sending out vehicles and stuff. And right now, the vehicles are a lot cheaper to purchase out there than it is to export from here because of the exchange rate. Exchange rates and whatnot, I think it was you who said earlier, if we build what we need to build, we almost don't need money. But when the money is worth more, we pull them together as quickly as possible, and then we send that money out where it can do more. That's the purpose of today's meeting. We want more of you to come on board because 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 pounds today means more than it meant a year ago. And as the exchange rate is, yes, we look at the exchange rate and say, isn't that terrible for the Africans? But the value of your pound and the value of your dollar is falling every day. And one day soon, it may just go away altogether. So let's use it while it has value, put it together and build something. That's really the best I can say. Why that's not it's a good thing for us right now, as you've just demonstrated with your concrete analogy.
Well, the other thing, and I want to highlight in the real merit in what it is that you're doing. When we look at what happened in South Africa and the xenophobia, you have to understand we are leaving from the various places where we are in the earth, and we're going to a different place. If we go in there with a colonizer's mindset that we're just going to build a mansion and we're going to, that's not going to work. You're going to produce xenophobia. So the way past that is to go in Ubuntu. It is to go in partnership. So it's not a matter of just spending the money for what you need. It's a matter of recognizing that Mother Africa needs us, our people need us, and we need them. And if we partner and put together, what happens is we create that synergy that you just spoke of. And you can eliminate xenophobia. You can create mutual benefit into the future. The whole reason that we built the Ledge Group is because in America, we have capital, but no resource. And the continental African has resource, but no capital. I mean, it's simple. They've had a concerted effort to keep us apart. When I first learned about Idi Amin, they said he was a cannibal. Then I studied him later on and realized this was a great man. So they put a concerted effort to keep the African and us disconnected. And I say the time is now, and I am so in approval of everything you're doing. 100% behind you.
Thank you very much. I mean, one of the things that we actually subscribe to is the principles of Kwanzaa. It's not essentially, but we like to use it as a framework in some respects. So Ubuntu is part of that. Now we're moving on to another question. Another person's asked a question. How easy is it to open a bank account, and can we deposit money into the bank account in Zambia?
Not from England. If you're not there, it's quite difficult. But if you actually considering relocating, once you relocate, your relocation documents will let you do it. As a tourist, it's actually a bit difficult. There are ways and means, but as a tourist, not necessarily easy. But once we settle and once we establish ourselves as business owners, it's very easy.
Okay. Can we be very candid and honest about the crime rate in Zambia?
Okay, I don't have any figures. That's a Google job, and it's not something I deal with because I don't know. I mean, can we be honest about the crime rate in Zambia? I don't know. Why would we lie? Google the crime rate in Zambia. Read that. My personal experience, I haven't experienced any crime. It's been a really good space for me, and I'm not going to call her on to discuss it, but members of our group who came on, who are on the call right now, we'd seen that we would go places. I think one of them, Denise is on the call, left her phone.
I'm here, Justin, definitely I'm here.
Oh, would you like to relay your story, Denise?
Yes, sure, definitely.
Go for it.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you very much for joining on this call and taking some of your valuable time to listen to us. Can you all see me? Can you see me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I came for the very first time. I joined in Next Level Development sometime in November 2019. I went there for the first time in November 19, and then I loved it so much. I actually returned in January 2020. I had been in the past to quite a lot of African countries. So I'm originally from Ivory Coast. I went to Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Gabon, Republic Democratic of Congo, so quite a few. And Zambia was a country where I felt the safest. I felt it was a country, when I was there actually I drove, which I've never ever done in any African country, because the Zambia was very laid back and relaxed. Totally contrary to, for example, when I went to Nigeria, a place where I've been possibly about 7 or 8 times. So without being dismissive about it, because Nigeria is a great country and every time I've been there, I absolutely adored it. I could tell it was not a place where you just arrive at the airport and jump on a cab. No, you come and you get picked up and collected. There's codes. I recall being told you never leave your handbag next to you on the seat, for example. The handbag must be at your feet, hidden underneath the seat. So let's say the safety levels was not as high as what I've experienced in Zambia. Another example is I had the first trip in November, and we went there for the first time. I had left my mobile phone in a public toilet in a very busy shopping area. And we went away. I realized once we were about 2 hours away from the place that I left my mobile phone and it was there. I knew exactly where I left it. So we came back 3 hours later. My phone was not only there, it was on charge, and the person who had my phone just told me they wanted to ensure it stayed on, just in case if I lose it, if I was calling it. I recall when I went back to Zambia in January, also Justin had left his laptop to charge in a shop, forgot it, and got it back hours later. I recall at time I would forget to lock the car and sometimes leave my car. My bag in the car, but there were just no, I even felt safer than at times in the UK, because in the UK, you cannot even imagine for a second you're going to leave your bag in the car on a seat, you know, in plain sight, and it's going to be safe. I just felt so safe. When we sometimes drove at night, you could see single women or single individual walking on the side of the road very
comfortably.
With not a sense of care in the world. I never felt when I was there at any point that I just had to be extra cautious or more cautious than what I was in the UK. It was actually quite the reverse. I felt at home. I mean, I've been to the Caribbean many times, for example, so it had more like a Caribbean feel. So possibly not Jamaica, but some other island which are known to be very, very, very safe. That's how I felt. I felt this sense of freedom. And yeah, I really quite personally felt quite safe.
Excellent. Okay, I would say, not on top of that, I did lose my laptop, yes. I also left my wallet like a couple of times, and when I'd go back a couple hours later, it'd be in the company safe, and they'd pull it out and give it to you. So crime statistics, I don't know, and I don't know who puts the crime statistics together, but to me, I felt very safe, but we're not going to go there without, no thought for personal security. I just looked online and it says it's very comparable to the UK, and our numbers are actually the Zambian numbers are very close to UK numbers, but I don't know who compiled that, and I can't speak to the veracity of the findings. Yeah, so Bevis, that's the best I'm going to do with that. I found it really lovely, and I found that the people actually didn't like crime. But hey, that's just my feelings, and I guess that's another reason why the research trip is so important, because you've got to get on the ground and feel these things for yourself. It's funny for us to be in a prison called the UK and then think about the crime rates elsewhere when the biggest criminal on the planet you live in his house.
And that's it. And so I've been north, south, east, west, central Africa. And the bottom line is, I don't care where you go on the planet Earth, you protect. Again, what makes you free is food, clothing, shelter, water, healthcare, and security. Security is very important. I don't care where you go. I don't care what people it is. You need to safeguard your existence into the future. That's your job. It's your ultimate responsibility. So, Africa has been intentionally suppressed. So people are hungry. You'll find that there are areas where they're more hungry than others. In Uganda, you have to have your, the insignia on your car has to be riveted onto your car or it's gonna come up gone in traffic. So there are places where it's, but again, you'll go there and you will find that nothing that you've ever seen is anything like it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think most of what we're being given, and this is a big part of the whole project as well, and I'm sure it's the same for your project, it's actually telling the truth that Africa isn't what it's reported to be. Reading reports is the worst way to really get comfortable in Africa. We have to travel. We've got to see for ourselves.
I just wanted to maybe also add my experience as a shareholder. So greetings, everyone. I hope that you can all hear me. My name's Tali, and I currently live in Bedford, which is just outside of London, approximately 50 miles. But I'm born and bred London up until approximately 6 years ago. And I became involved with Next Level Developments further to a presentation that I attended in September last year. I'm a mother of one. I'm 36. My daughter's 18. And I became involved with Next Level Developments further to just a kind of WhatsApp message. For the longest while, I knew from a very young age that I was never going to grow old in the UK, and had been looking at various places, and yeah, I just knew. I knew that I wanted to go somewhere that, my people were in majority, but I had no idea as to where that was. So I attended the presentation in Luton last September, didn't know anyone. So, completely off the back, no one. And I went there, listened to the presentation and thought, it makes so much sense. yeah, it just made sense, so much that 6 weeks later I was in Zambia, and I'd never been sub-Sahara Africa, only North and the kind of really well advertised places. And I went to Zambia, and I think the only reason I'm back in the UK is because there were things for me that I had to do, and work commitments, etc. But what I experienced there, I've not experienced anywhere else. I kind of, in more ways than I can even describe, I felt like, yeah, it was just, it's perfect in terms of, my age, what it has to offer, the people. I don't know, very few places that I've been to in the world where I'm in a majority and I feel safe and I feel like it's pioneering. The malls were what you would want them to be, having come from, the UK, US, etc. The people, I've been to the Caribbean and it's different. And it's different to the Caribbean in the sense that in the Caribbean, what I've experienced in the Caribbean is that everyone still is either, they're very much still Western centric, and so they're very much governed by what's happening in the US or what's happening in the UK. Whereas when you're in Africa, they are innovators, they are creators, and they're doing what they do where they're at. The biggest thing that is lacking is obviously capital and investors, etc. However, one of the biggest reasons that I decided to become a shareholder, it's not to say that I've got money willy-nilly, but it was something that I knew in my heart was right, and felt that not only would I be able to grow from it, but also where we were going to would be able to grow. And that was key. The ethos of it, next level development, as Peter touched upon, and which is already part of who we are, is that we're not going in to advance ourselves and our pockets. It's very much about collaboration and growing. I don't want to go somewhere that's perfect. I want to go somewhere that I can grow. And all that we need, and I saw that back in Zambia, or forward in Zambia, what I saw was needed is just like-minded, forward-thinking individuals who see that there's a lot of potential, just like, there's, as there is all over the world, there's a huge community of people who are not Africans that have seen what the potential there is. Sorry, am I to stop? Have I been talking for too long?
Yes, we've got some other questions, Carly.
Sorry. But yes, that's my experience. And so it's beautiful to have you all. And yeah, thank you. Okay.
Sorry, we're going to have Ntembe, but just before Ntembe, we've got Nina. So Ntembe, are you still there? Okay, we're going to ask Nina.
Can I ask a question?
Is that Ntembe?
No, this is Huey.
Huey, just one moment, please. We do have an order. Just a moment. I'll add you to the list.
No problem.
Okay. Nina?
Yes, hi.
Do you want to ask your question?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nina Shabazz. I'm one of the founding members. Been with Justin since pretty much the beginning of this. I am the town planner. One of the questions, I've been kind of fielding questions off of Facebook from people who didn't know that there was a Zoom call today, but one of the questions was asked if we have partnerships in other countries. One brother was saying that he was looking at Botswana and that sort of thing, and he was asking, are you guys currently in partnerships, or are you working on partnerships to spread abroad? I told him that our starting point is Zambia, but we are open to, obviously build alliances and stuff like that with neighboring countries. So I just kind of want to ask that. And the other thing is he's trying to, I guess, join via the Next Level Development website. And so he was asking, like, how can he just join us, I guess as a collective, but via the website.
Justin?
Okay, can you join us as a collective via the website? Again, those different parts are going to get rolled out in time, and we are working on them. The stuff with Next Level Developments is, it's a group. and we are all working on different elements at the same time. So where we are now and our offering right now is about how we build this prototype. It's a lot easier to have these conversations with a working prototype in session than it is to necessarily take the resources we've got and spread them everywhere. However, if there are people, and one of our good friend of mine actually was looking at starting in Botswana and had begun in Botswana. If someone's already out there working with plans and ideas, then again, let's have these as conversations. So there will be ways for you to stay in touch, be part of our supporters group, get regular updates and information. But I don't have all the answers. I'm only one of the shareholders, and as things come back, we discuss them and we see what the next moves are. So even with next level developments going forward, there are some core things we've got in the works, but much of what we're going to do is going to be decided by the shareholders. So stuff like that, and you've got ideas and whatever, join on, get on board with us, and let's have these discussions, because it's not set in stone. We work together on, and bring our experiences, and we're going to build something out off the back of that. Is that okay?
Fine.
Is that a good answer, Nina?
That's fine. That's fine. Right, and Tembe, I'm unmuting you. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Please go ahead with your question, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hi everyone. My name's Ntembe. Yeah, I'm Zambian. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I'm Zambian, born and bred. Well, it's not more a question. It's more like just a contribution I wanted to make to add to what's been said by everyone. Firstly, I'd like to say, well, it's a good decision that all of you brothers and sisters have decided to choose Zambia. I'm not only saying this because I was born in Zambia and most of my ancestry is from Zambia, but Zambia is an amazing place. It's an amazing country. And I know some people asked about the security situation over there, and I just wanted to contribute from my experience growing up there. I spent 19 years of my life in Zambia before I moved to the UK. It's a long story. And Zambia is... Yeah, it's a... Then Zambia do tolerate any kind of crime, any kind of violence. People in Zambia are very peaceful. They're peace-loving people, and they just want to make progress. And they're very welcoming of people from outside, which is both, it's a double-edged sword, because it's both a strength and it's a weakness, because there's been a lot of people that will come to Zambia and they'll take advantage of Zambia. But Zambians will welcome everyone. And then someone spoke about the health issue as well. That someone asked a question about that, and I wanted to contribute and say healthcare is quite good in Zambia as well. Although there's a double system in Zambia. There's like private healthcare, and then there's government healthcare. The government healthcare is usually free or cheaper, and the quality might be slightly less in government healthcare, only because they're short staffed, but you've always got an option to go to a private clinic, which is just as good as any hospital you find in the UK. So
yes. Can I ask you, you've listened to the presentation, how did you find my representation of your homeland? Did I get it right?
You got it right, bang on, excellent. And you were speaking about Mansa as well, Mansa, Samfia, that province is where my mother's tribe, my mother's people come from that province. So even though I've not been to that part of the country, because Zambia is so vast, it's so big.
Good, excellent.
I grew up mainly in the Copper Belt province and Lusaka. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say. So from what I've heard from your presentation, I would say you're 95% correct. Yeah.
All right, nice one, thank you.
Fantastic, that's really good to hear.
Radio. Okay. Another question is here was asking, do we have any members of the NLD which are in Zambia right now? And
yes.
what's the makeup of?
Is any of them on?
Say it again. No, I don't think we've got Chembo or anybody else in Zambia, or Chanda. So yes,
it's
so
unfortunate. There may be a problem with them, but we should have done, but we don't. So, what was the question they had? Maybe we can ask them to address it another time.
Yeah, basically, they just wanted to find out if we do have any Zambian members, and what's the proportionality of Zambian members, and how many people from the UK actually live over there, and how we're going to move and.
Again, these are questions that we can have. I mean, it's not that difficult. I've got 4 core members in Zambia, and out of the 20 of us, so I guess we will call that 20% are core members, but obviously everything we're doing in Zambia is with Zambians. So all of our partners out there are Zambians. Was there anything else? What was that? What did I miss in there, Bevis?
Well, it's just really asking, how many of our members are Zambian? Yeah,
4 out of 20.
Yeah,
approximately.
I would add to that Justin, you yourself have been out there for several months, and in fact the only reason you're here in the UK at the moment is because you came back and got trapped with Corona-19, so you're here with us. But if it wasn't for Corona, you would actually be back over there on the ground, doing the work, everything you've just explained in the presentation and more. So I think that's worth stating as well, that we have somebody here from the UK who's UK born and bred, who has decided to sacrifice time with here in the UK with family to go out to Zambia to make this a reality and to keep the dream alive and to keep it going and to keep building and developing this project.
Okay, thank you very much there. That was Fiona, one of our members. One of our founding members. We also have another question here. It says, when is the residential development expected to be ready for habitation?
How long is a piece of string? But it's approximately 18 months from they stop this lockdown madness. Okay.
I hope that that's fine for you, Daniela. Okay. Great. Are there any other questions from anybody else? Have I missed out?
On what Sister Tali said. She said that.
I did up.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Brother Yui. Sorry, just a moment there, Peter. Yui?
Greetings and peace, Profam. My name's Huey from Aga Tours, Pan-African Tour Company. Been touring Africa now with groups since 2006. And unfortunately, haven't got to Zambia yet. I tried to get into Zambia while I was at Victoria Falls by walking across into Zambia, but got stopped because I didn't have a visa. So I did try. So, the great presentation again, Justin. Obviously, my question will really reflect what others probably would like to know. You've given us all of the great positive sides, the great things that can be done in Zambia. Tell me, what is the downside of Zambia? Because I have a couple. And how is the economy going right now? And what is their percentage growth each year? GDP.
Right. GDP, funny you say that, because I had this conversation in the week. I really know business about GDP, and this is because I remember from my GCSE economics class many, many years ago, the GDP, if one guy is bathing in money and most of the people are poor, the GDP could still be rising. So it doesn't actually have a difference to the poverty of the people on the ground. Negative sides of Zambia that I've experienced for being there is culturally explaining our needs or mixing our needs and theirs. So for me, to be as candid as possible, when we're talking about economic figures and whatnot, it's pretty much what Peter had said in the beginning. We don't actually need to worry about these things if we have land to produce our own needs. They're not important. However, our connection to the Zambians and Africans as a whole, and I've had this conversation with a mutual friend of ours, with Marley in Gambia.
Okay.
It's actually being able to, we have these needs. We want this done, and we want it done like this. In Zambia or in Africa, their way of doing it may be slightly different. So we have to now take time to learn how to work together. So I found it very frustrating at times over the last 12 months, getting synergy with the African family out there. I've had plumbers come that would come on a Monday and not visit again for 2 months. We've had people sell things that they said they sold said it was this, and when we got there, it wasn't quite what they said. But it wasn't the way how they speak, the way how they organize themselves and do things. They've become accustomed to doing it how they're doing it, and we've become accustomed different. So I found in the initial setup of this, there's quite a lot of tough conversations that had to be had, and I'm blessed to have the Zambians on board who are on board and actual NLD shareholders, because they helped me navigate that. And some of the arguments that we've had among ourselves has helped us get a better understanding about how to deal with Zambians out there. But in terms of the GDP, if I said to you that the GDP has gone up 20%, which is huge, or 20 points, it would make no difference to the people who are poor in that country, none. So it's not something I really deal with. And it's a bit like when people give the figures of how much aid they give. GDP or, oh, we've given 20 million in aid doesn't say how much you took out of the country, or how you tied the 20 million aid that it never really left your coffers. So economically, I'm not worried about that. But the real economics that we need as a community is land and unity, and that's what we're really focused on. And to that regard, what is the difficulties or the trials that we're having to overcome and are overcoming is we're building on our unity with each other and with the African family, because after you've been away for 400 years, you're not exactly the same. It takes time to get back into harmony again. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Right. Okay. We have another question here from Cherie, and she asked them, do you wish to set a cap on the membership? Do we wish to set a cap on the membership, i.e. the number of people that are joining?
We may do, but at the same time, we may do for different stages that we're in. But reality being said, and I don't think I actually mentioned this in the presentation, but Zambia is 3 times the size of England with 1/4 of the population. There is plenty of room for us to have new shareholders. Shareholders just mean they've contributed to helping us build that space. So yes, we could have a cap, depending on if we need to get such and such done or so and so done this way or that. I don't know. That's for the shareholders to discuss, and they may well come back and say that's something they want to do. But there's so much room in Africa for us to expand. Namibia, which is next door, is even bigger than Zambia and has less population. So there's room in Africa for us to expand into. I don't have it in my mind, and the members are on here, some of them are. We haven't discussed it as a group, but in my mind, the cap just depends on what we can do with the resources. So it's not, we're only gonna have this and to hell with the rest of you. What resources have we got? What can we do with what we've got? And what's the best way we can affect our community and the communities that we're moving into?
Okay, I would like to add to that that this is also our first project. So we will be replicating this in other countries or elsewhere. There was another...
And they will all need shareholders. Sorry, good point. They will all need shareholders. So there you go.
Okay. Another question that she's asked is, how do you see the shares being expanded going forward? I.e., is there a timeline for growth?
The timeline for growth. We're still working at that, and we haven't done it. This is our first year. So we've been in Zambia since May the 1st, 2019 is when my feet first touched the ground. Is there idea for growth? Yes, but we've got bits to do. So you saw the parts that I showed you already. These are bits we've got to get together, building our businesses, getting our agriculture off the ground, and that's first and foremost. So I'm not going to try and make things up to wow you with. That's what our focus is right now, making sure food, finance, and we've got a place to live. We'll probably spend the next 18 to 24 months doing that and refining the project that we're on, and anything after that is after that.
Okay, and then we do also have our phases. So we're currently in phase 2. Yeah,
we're in phase 2.
Yeah,
which is where we'll be for the next 18 months till 24.
Okay. Okay, another question from Nabilia says here, do we need 50 members in order to start the building, or can it be started with less than 50 members?
Good point. It can be started with less than 50 members. If we got 50 members today and they lifted the restrictions, we probably start next week. However, having said that, there are other things that we're doing around our agriculture and some of our businesses. Perhaps that takes off in the next 6 months to a year, and that funds the building. So if we're really successful with our businesses, and I think it was Peter who was on who said he had 11 mines. If you have working mines, you may not need as many investors as we'd need if we didn't. So let's see what happens. We're aiming at 50 investors for this stage, phase that we're on, phase 2 that we're in. But we're also building businesses at the same time. And the success of any of those may mean that we can do this whole phase with 30 or 40 people. Maybe we get to 32 and we're able to do this whole stage. We don't know.
Okay. Another person's asked, what is the name of the company?
What's the name of the company? Next Level Developments Limited.
Okay. Maybe we could expand on that in terms of what do we have as a name of company over here in the UK, and what do we have named the company in Zambia? Maybe they're asking about that, the entities. Justin, oh, you're frozen, Justin. Oh. Okay, we seem to have actually lost Justin at this moment in time. So the question there was, what is the name of the company? The name of the company over here is registered as Next Level Developments. We also have a arm of the company registered in Zambia also, which is also titled Next Level Developments. So we do have. You're back.
Yeah, the battery died. But I'm lucky enough to be next to Raymond, so I just hopped on his one.
Right. Okay, you're back. Okay. Take it away then, in terms of the entities, in terms of the business entities and legal entities in the UK, Zambia.
Yeah, again, these are things that if somebody's really serious, and sometimes, I don't know what the caller's full disposition or desire is, but sometimes what we'll have is people want to come on and talk about, give me this information or show me your accounts and whatnot, and they don't necessarily want to be involved. They just want to have that conversation. So this isn't really the space for that. And people who get on board will go into those bits with you. We're registered in the UK. We're registered in Zambia. We have, we've done 6 months. We have our interim 6 months accounts are in. We'll be doing accounts again when we get to 12 months. So, but those things are really for the shareholders and those who are involved. That's our personal business until it needs to be put out. But at the same time, if you're asking, are we registered? Yes, we are. We have accountants who actually is looking to join us, but as a friend to our idea, and he's been helping us get our things together. So that's about as much as I really want to give on those. I don't like doing facts and figures or the personal documentation in a general call, but we're happy to discuss this with people who are really serious about joining.
Okay, right. So we are now an hour into the actual question and answer session, and its time is dragging on. So we do want to try and bring this to an end. So just got 1 or 2 questions, which will try and make the answer short because time is moving on for everybody. We've got a question here from Charlene saying, where are we based? When our meetings do take place. We're based, our meetings normally take place in London, but we have had meetings in Luton, Birmingham, Manchester and Leeds. Right, can multiple family members contribute to the initial 5K investment? Justin?
Again, it's a case by case thing. So if it's multiple family members and there's 40 of you, I think you'll struggle. However, if it's couple, and we have couples who've joined. If it's a couple and you've got, a couple with 2 children and you're paying for your family, then that makes sense. Think about it like this. As a shareholder, when you come on board, what we're saying we will put aside for you is a space that you'll be able to live in. So if there's only 2 of you and 2 children, 2 or 3 bedroom apartment or house will be fine. If it's 10 of you, it's going to be a problem. So think about in terms of if it's a family like that and you are a family, but you will only get the 1 voting right. Because one person will be the head of that family, and they will obviously make decisions for that group. So yeah, you can as a family, I guess, just within common sense. But obviously, again, everybody's application goes to the team, and we do have a discussion. So yeah, you can join as a family member. But I think if you're thinking cousins and aunties and uncles and everybody including it, it's probably not best that way. But we will definitely have a discussion with you about what it is you want to do.
Okay. Another question here is, do we have enough capital to start farming?
Yes. If you've got land and a seed, you've got enough capital to start farming. Yeah, we have enough capital to start farming. Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm just reminding folks that if you, in terms of what next, if you want more information, just please write more somewhere into the chat section. And if you want, if you're interested in joining, please type join into the chat section. And if you're interested in actually coming on one of the actual I forgot the name of the words. The trips, yes. Right, trip. Yeah, I forgot the name of the word. Yeah, so if you want to come on the trip, just write the word trip. We will be sending a questionnaire after this also, so please look out for the questionnaire. Right, somebody's just mentioned. Oh, so yeah, we've got people responding. So, are there any more key questions that we can ask? Just one more question from anybody. Any burning question? Open your mic if you like. Okay, nobody's unmuting themselves, so I think we've answered quite a few questions here.
Oh, I just wanted to say one thing that I did want to mention. I did want to highlight that of the shareholders, you know, it's a range of individuals who vary in age from, you know, so it's not just for older people or younger people, it's a whole community that we're building here. So yeah, just bear that in mind. You're never too young or too old, so yeah.
Good point. In actual fact, we're probably somewhere between about 26 and 60, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another question here about the cost of the trip.
The cost of the trip is £965, what it was before COVID. Who knows what it's going to be after? But it was before COVID, £965, and we do our best to put it together in a fashion where we really just want you to come. So we're not escalating prices to make profits out of it. It's what it costs to come, plane ticket, lodge, and driving you around to different locations. So $965, and as a rule, we try to keep it under £1,000.
You know, so Tali mentioned that she went to the Caribbean and there was something different. And I can tell you what the difference is. Everywhere that you go, anywhere else on the planet Earth, the difference is they're catering to Europeans. Correct. Everything that they do is about Europeans. And when you get to Africa, that's not the same.
Oh, well done. Good point. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Peter. You need to hurry up and get on board.
Yes, we need you, man. And we do thank everybody that's attended this webinar. We will be having another webinar in 2 weeks' time. So look forward to another webinar on, I believe it's going to be the 3rd of May, same time, 3 until 5. So please mention to everybody else that you think may be interested in this initiative to join the next webinar in 2 weeks' time. And we will be sending out, as I mentioned, a questionnaire, and anybody that's responding to the trip or more or want to join, we will be getting in contact with you. Thank you very much for your time. From Next Level Development, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Tali, everybody. Thanks. Thanks, Charlene. Bye. Lola. Hey. Right.